Hi, my name is Danielle Mattlock. I'm from Corbin, Kentucky. I'm an LCSW and an LCADC, which is a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor. I'm the director of substance abuse at Cumberland River Behavioral Health. My husband and I are associate pastors here at Parkway Ministries in Corbin. But life didn't always look this way. I was broken, but God. So I grew up here in Corbin. I was actually adopted at 3 months old, I think. Was actually born in Paducah. I just learned that just a few years ago. But anyways, grew up in Corbin with two very normal parents in a Southern Baptist church. My mom and dad were deacons in the church, Sunday school teachers. We went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. My mother was actually probably a pioneer as far as women in ministry in this town. Life started changing probably when I was about 10 or 11. Started smoking cigarettes, started saying cuss words at like 10, 11 years old, you know. So when I was like 12, I took my first drink. I had a slumber party for my 13th birthday, but I was still 12. And we were outside. My parents had a pool and a gazebo. I mean, like I said, we had kind of this like normal middle class, even childhood. And so we were sleeping outside and some girls snuck some guys over and had alcohol. And I was mortified and terrified. But social suicide was a bigger deal to me than like consequences from my parents. So I took my first drink. My mother was sick. She was diabetic. She was a juvenile diabetic. And so she was in and out of the hospital and my dad had to work. But as I drank and as things progressed, I started smoking pot, you know. I started having sex very young. I was 13 years old. It was a horrible experience. And to handle some of that, I just kept drinking and I would use more drugs. You know, I started huffing paint and my mom was on pain pills because she was dying. And so I would steal her pain pills even. The first time I got arrested, I was 14 years old. I stole my mom's check. My friends convinced me to do that. And I didn't realize you got checks back in the mail back then. And you do. So when I was 15, things really took a turn. My mother died. And my father had wanted me to, he had wanted to send me off and do all kinds of things. And Mom just never would let him. You know, we talk about brokenness and in thinking about this, brokenness for me was a life. It became a life. And so within it there's a whole lot of events, you know, and a whole lot of trauma, but didn't know it when my mother died, but I was pregnant. And I found out like a month later, and my father kicked me out of the house. Well, he wanted me to have an abortion, and I wouldn't do it. And he kicked me out of the house. So I've been on my own since I was 15. I went to court on my 16th birthday. My father released custody of me. I was an emancipated minor at that point and on my own. But what I did was run into the arms of a man that proceeded to beat the crap out of me for the next 10 or 12 years. He taught me how to live on the street because I came from a middle-class home, so I didn't even know how to fold a towel, honestly, whenever I learned how to steal for a living just to survive. I learned what to do and what not to do to get hit. When I was 16, I became homeless. Lost custody of my son because I was homeless. It took about a year, but I got a place to live and did all the things, and I got custody of my son back and got on my own and thought I was doing good, but I was still using and I was still living this like insane lifestyle. And just things progressed. And I felt like I was doing okay because I was working the whole time. I had a job the whole time. Soon, when I turned 16 years old, I started working and I was waiting tables at Cracker Barrel, but I'm working at Cracker Barrel on speed and selling drugs from the to-go phone. I had my daughter when I was 21 by a different man. And I got pretty strung out on oxys and we had to steal jewelry to afford that habit. I had to have about 5 Oxycontin 40 milligrams a day just to get off the couch to function. and he had to have even more than that. So I had to have even more than that to get high. So between the two of us, we were using about $1,000 worth of dope a day. And a minimum wage job don't cut that, and he didn't work. He would steal jewelry from Walmart, and I got busted, and we had about $50,000 worth of stolen jewelry at my house. And so I got my first felonies, 2 counts of receiving stolen property. I got probation, but I lost custody of my children then. Social services came in and they took my kids, and that was a very, very big, horrible moment for me. There was just, I don't know, I remember laying on my couch and never feeling so empty in my life. And so I had this list of things to do, and the judge said change one thing and that's everything, and you need a new man, you need to move and all that stuff. And I moved in with a friend of mine and went to treatment that year, and that was in 2001. I went to treatment and stayed for 30 days, and I'm like, I'm going to change my life, and what I did was just get everything back. But I got saved during that time here at Parkway, and we all got saved. And I actually did really good for a couple of years. I stayed clean for 2.5 years, started going to school, working for my dad, had a relationship with him, and I never worked on me. I got with some old friends and did a pill, and that was it. Within 2 weeks, I was bad on it again. I mean, I was pawning stuff and out of money, and I bonded my ex out of jail. He was in Indiana in jail, and we got back together. And so then I started to manufacture meth, and there's a whole lifestyle attached to using drugs. It's not just drugs. There's an emptiness that I can't even begin to possibly describe to you. But I was like dead inside, man. And I was doing tarot cards. I got to the point where I would do tarot cards. I got involved in witchcraft, astrology charts, crystals, all of that. And I know now that I wanted a higher power. I wanted a spiritual connection. But I knew when I was using back then that I could not go to God and go to Jesus, because he certainly did not accept my lifestyle, I would love to sit here and tell you that I had a traumatic event that made me decide to use drugs. There was not. I was asked, what was your deepest, darkest moment of despair? I don't have one. I have some bottoms. I can tell you my moment of surrender was in jail. And it's just a hole. It's a big, deep, dark hole, and you just keep throwing stuff in it, trying to fill it up, you can't do it. It's one day in October in 2003, about a week before Thanksgiving, the police kicked the door in. I'm on probation. He's on parole. We're in a full working meth lab. Got 2 guns, a bunch of knives, a lot of dope. And it's 3 or 4 cops and a probation officer, and they throw me on the ground, and arrest me, obviously, and him. And I was on probation, so I automatically went to jail for that in Whitley County. I made myself at home there too, because I learned how to adapt, and I thought I was going to go to prison for the rest of my life. My standing offer was 20 years to life. And I still, when I was locked up, was trying to figure out how to get high the whole time. So January 10th, I was actually from Pee Wee Valley. I was in Bullitt County then. They took me to Whitley County Jail to stay all night and to go to court the next day. So I go to court the next day, and my attorney said, how about 4 years? So what he said was, how about 4 years concurrent, which means run with my 3 years, and you're automatically eligible for parole, because I've been locked up about 2 years. I said, I'll take it. So I'm like, I'll take it. So I pled guilty that day to, I think, facilitation to manufacture and possession, and I had the other 2 felonies too. So that was January 10th. But I woke up January 11th in a very cold jail cell, a steel rack, we called it. It's like bunk beds, but they're steel. And I'm mad about that thick, and in a very bad mood. It was a non-smoking jail, and I still smoked cigarettes back then too, and I was mad about it, And that was the day I surrendered. I won't say that was the bottom, but that was the day I surrendered. And I just said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I surrendered that day, and it began the series of events that leads to the redemption side of things. I went to treatment. I did all the stuff that you have to do. And I got all the stuff back, But I found, though, the first few years of my recovery process, that I still was not whole. And so I did find myself at another bottom. And I was like, I still hate myself, because now the solution was gone. The solution I'd always known was gone. The drugs were gone, all the coping skills. I couldn't do all that stuff anymore. And so what was I going to do? What can I do differently? So I found myself on my knees like, what am I going to do? I can't keep doing this stuff over and over, because I'll end up using again if I keep doing the same things that I was doing, living that life even without drugs. So I began to go back to church. The story of the prodigal. He goes back home, right? He has that pig pen moment, and he starts to go back where he came from. So I began to go back to church. And I went back to the church that I grew up in. And my sponsor, you have a sponsor in the recovery program, she starts taking me to all these Pentecostal churches on this, and I went to every Pentecostal church this side of the state, I think. But anyways, I had an encounter with the Holy Ghost, and that changed everything. It changed everything, and I wanted more and more and more of it. And so I started dating my now husband, and he taught me what love is. He taught me that love didn't have to hurt. I can be real with him, and I don't have to worry about him leaving. I don't have to do things to keep him. My kids are grown now. My son's 31. My daughter's just turned 26 Sunday. She's married. He's stable. I say they graduated high school with no kids and weren't using drugs, and I called that a win, I have a granddaughter that's going to be 9 years old, that doesn't ever have to see me high again, or ever. She never saw me high. My kids don't have to see me high again. January 11th this year, I celebrated 21 years clean, and my son texted me right when I got here to church, and he said, I just want you to know I'm so proud of you. And I just remember when he was 11 years old, and I had relapsed, and he came to see me in jail, and he said, I thought you'd promised you'd never do this again, So God changes everything, and he steps on the scene, and he can change everything. I've got all the stuff. I've got a career, I've got my kids in my life. We've got a house. My husband was called to ministry, and I was called with him into ministry. We pay our bills every month. We don't have to lie, cheat, and steal. We just live a completely different life. I can't imagine using drugs today, and you start off not want to get clean because you don't want to give up the life you have. But I've developed this life now that I don't want to use drugs because I don't want to give up the life I have, And so today I live this life of gratitude. I was broken, but God